Okay, cool. So nice to meet you. As I discussed, my name's Liam or Liam-Elio, and I'm the co-founder of CMD Careers. We run this as a platform to support students with accessible one-to-ones and mentoring, doing everything from CV reviews to more kind of job search strategy and grad scheme strategy stuff. So that's everything from getting you started with networking to moving into how to secure final interviews and all of that. As this is the first session we've ran, I just wanted to give you a little bit of time to talk about yourself and how you've currently found the job market and what you're working towards. And then I'll talk a little bit about myself, my background, why I think I'm qualified to give this type of advice. And then from there, we'll go into the CV and where I think we can make improvements. You specifically put in the form that you want to focus on how to leverage projects, right? So that is
Yeah,
something that we'll also cover more towards the end after we went through the CV more broadly. But if you just want to give me a little bit of background on you, that'd be great.
I'm actually a third year student at university and I'm originally from India. But
Mhm,
then I've just been like facing one issue majorly, which has been like passing the CV review check. I'm not
mhm.
sure why is that so. Is it like because I need sponsorship or is it because of my CV is lacking something? I'm not sure of that. Like I make sure that I align the CV to according to the job description. My ATS score is like 75, 80 above.
Mhm.
So we have been providing by a platform from our university, so we can copy paste the job description on there, and then just check if our like CV matches with the job description. But I'm
Mhm.
just not sure. And then I just feel like I don't know how to elaborate my more experiences, my more as I talked about my university projects into the CV because that shows more of my like my academic achievements, my understanding knowledge of the topic. So yeah, that's it
Yeah, of
really.
course, no worries. Yeah, the first thing I'll say on that is a very common major issue for international students with CVs, and it depends. So I don't think it's going to be to do with the relevancy of your CV. As far as CVs go, this one's quite good. We've done like 400 of these now. So there's lots of things I like about it, and I will break it down with you later. What I'd be looking at first of all is a lot of this is going to be under a misconception. So
Okay.
ATS scores are a little bit funny. People talk about them like it's an AI reading through your CV. I work with a lot of recruiters, and one recruiter in particular on LinkedIn is very, very adamant that ATS systems do not have an AI read through your CV. It's not really how it works. What essentially happens is there will be keyword searches to look for things like relevance. There will be a metric on your structure and stuff like that that will rank where your CV is, but your CV will always be looked at by a human recruiter. It'll be looked at by a human recruiter for literally seconds because what they'll do is they'll glance at the CV, and if it doesn't look interesting, they will just move on because they've got like, I don't know, 200 CVs to do in an hour to make their salary worth it. So it is a fast process, but it is not an automated process. I think that's something to be quite clear on here. When you're getting rejected straight away, what that is known as is a knockout question. So you'll have experienced this. You'll have in the application something around needing a visa or being an international student. And as soon as you answer unfavorably on that, the role is now withdrawn. This is incredibly frustrating because not a lot of jobs will advertise that this is going to happen. But the best strategy around this is essentially if there is a company we've applied for where we've been instantly rejected, we need to figure out, is that because the CV is poor, or is it because the opportunity isn't open to international students and it just doesn't say, which is unfortunately quite common.
Okay.
The the advantage to this, and the bright side to it, is it means that you don't have to worry as much about your CV. I think there's two situations that international students get into. They get into a situation of, because they're from another culture that might have different standards for CVs, or it might have different understandings of what goes in a CV, their CVs are actually bad. like they're not good for the UK job market. They're either too long, or they're overly focused on soft skills, or they just don't have the experience that's required. You're not in that position. I've looked through it. I'm pretty happy with it. The template's pretty solid. There's a few things that will be changing up, but none of it screams to me that you don't understand how to write a UK CV.
Okay.
All of it's pretty good. Uh, I'm going to blur out your name for the video. Do you mind if I share the CV just so like you can see what I'm looking at?
Yeah, that's fine.
Awesome. Give that 1 second to come through. As I said, I'll black bar out anything at the top here so people will never see it. I like most of this. I think it is good. I think we need more metrics and case studies here, which I think goes to your own point of how to leverage projects and stuff better. And what's nice about that is you're clearly self-aware of where your next steps need to be. All of this is good. I don't understand, like, obviously the A-level equivalent part, I understand. The A1 part, I take it they're high grades.
Yeah, it's the highest in India. So
Awesome. No
yeah,
worries.
so
Yeah.
we get the percentage, which is 96.2, and
Yeah,
then we get the grading system as well. So that's A1.
got it. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I thought so. Yeah, very happy with this. To break this down super quickly, it's just a traffic light system. Yellow are comments, they're not bad, they're just comments of stuff I want to change. Green is really good, red is stuff we'll remove. So basically, starting off the top here, your professional summary is quite good. It's short. Usually these are really long. They're either a paragraph and a half. And this isn't too focused on soft skills either. What a lot of people will do is analytical is a little bit of a soft skill, but it goes with actuary, so I'll allow it. What a lot of people will do is they'll say things like they're a good team leader or they're dedicated and all of that. And it's just not very useful. So it's good that straight away you're telling me what you do. Hands-on experience can be better. The reason why is it's a phrase I see a lot in international applications. Uh, I'm not sure if it's something that in India is used as a kind of like a CV profile word or something, but it's just not used very much in the UK. I'd rather have something here that tells me what experience you have. So we do it here, risk modeling, financial analysis, problem solving. But here, I'd have something like, where is that hands-on experience from? I know that you've done some like job simulations, so I potentially throw that in, like you've had experience with like forward simulations, stuff like that. I think that's important. And then also, we've had internships. Put that in here. Don't say it's hands-on experience. All of this is good. And I like that we're talking about what we're passionate about, but I want to see where you've added value. And this will be a theme in your CV, is it's good. You do lots of metrics and metrics are amazing, but none of these metrics tell me what value you've added. And that might sound a bit weird because as you can see, like you've done a lot of stuff with numbers and you've done a lot of stuff with how much you've increased stuff by, which is all good, but it's not the same as value. So if I pull 1 point out of this, designed an Excel-based tool to monitor order timelines and mitigate production delays, improving client delivery reliability by 20%. Obviously, I know that when you increase the client delivery, that's going to be good. But what would be better here is if we could show how this change impacted one of two things. Either reduce the amount of time needed for the task, which directly increases money, because, in a business, time is money, or how it directly increased money. Because really, they're the two things that a business are going to care about when they're looking at the value proposition of you, right? They're interested in, can you save them time so that their processes become more efficient, or can you make them more money? All right, that they're like the main two things that people are hired for. So it's good to have things like the 1 million impressions. It's good to have things like the 20% reduction, but what does that look like in either money or time? And I think that's where we need to go to next. Now, it's entirely fair that you might not know what that looks like, but the way I'd go about it is for anything to do with efficiency, take the hourly cost that it would have done to do that task and use that as your cost estimate for how much money you've saved broadly. It doesn't matter that the numbers are right necessarily. We can use terms like estimate, we can use terms like on average to generalize. So we're not, lying in the CV. But what we need to show is that you understand that the things that you've done in these roles aren't just interesting KPIs, they're actually actively adding to the value of the company. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Awesome. So I think that's a good place to start. And then the only other thing I'd want to do is I talk about this on your CV. I'll give this straight back to you after the session. Is I want us to front load our metrics. What I mean by that is we read from left to right. So the most important information should be on the left. Having your metrics right at the end, I think, is damaging how much impact comes across from the CV. If we have 1 million impressions at the start here and then say how we supported it, that is the more useful information, right? Than saying what we actually did. Because what we're interested in when we create metrics is metrics are used so that we know how much something scales, right? Because if you said you supported content creation for TikTok and Instagram, and never said how many impressions that is. That could be one video that no one saw, or it could be, something that went multinational viral, and we'd never know. So metrics are important because they add context to your achievements. But what you then need to do afterwards is figure out what was the value of that achievement, right? Because 1 million impressions is fantastic, but what did that lead to? You said it enhanced the brand visibility. What metrics do we have for what it was looking to increase? So if this is in marketing and finance, you were probably doing stuff to show the firm in a positive light. I don't imagine you were selling anything, right?
So it's more like it's a diamond jewelry company, and then
Yeah,
we post reels on Instagram to like increase the engagement, and we just like sponsor ads and stuff.
yeah.
So yeah, it was kind of like impressions for marketing.
Okay, cool. And what was the end point of those impressions? Were they meant to lead to a sales funnel? Were they meant to show the
Yes, so
company
what we were
sales
looking
funnel?
at were the conversion rates. So the
Yeah,
impressions were like in millions, and then the number of clicks per ad we got, that got increased very quickly, like to 25% on Google as well. So that was a big achievement. And then we started from like 80K followers on Instagram, we ended up like 200K because of
okay.
like continuous posting and marketing.
So you've told me there what the value is of this point, but this point itself doesn't hold that value. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what we need to do, go back in this point, is this is the thing you did, but the value was it increased the follower account, which then increases the engagement. And then also on top of that, your click ratio went up, which would directly have increased sales, right? So
Yeah.
that is the focus here. But again, for me personally, this CV is very good. You're not at the stage where the CV itself is going to be denying you opportunities. You're at the stage where we need to find roles that work within the international student structure. And I think potentially whatever we're looking at right now isn't doing that. So I think what will be useful for us is when I asked you for your background, what I was hoping we'd speak about a little bit more was how you've applied to roles, what roles you've applied for, what do those numbers look like? Because what that will help me with, it will help me figure out, have we only just started? And because we've only just started, we're not finding a lot of success, or are we hundreds of applications in and about to like give up entirely? Because
No,
that's
we've
the
just
two sides here.
started, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you must be aware of the Bristol tracker.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, so I've been applying through that and the other like sites as well, like Bright Network, Total Jobs, Target Jobs,
Awesome.
everything. So I've just started, to be very honest. And then I see with the Lloyds, they've mentioned that no sponsorship. EY,
Mhm.
they've mentioned only sponsorship in certain areas,
Yeah.
etc., etc. So it's been like that.
Yeah, and that is where we will be. There's two types of international students we usually work with. Uh, I think you're in the more prepared part, so that's great. All of those trackers are amazing. I would urge you to also have your own. It's going to be a little bit of a pain, but I think there's huge utility in taking all of those jobs that you apply for and then having something that you yourself have built to manage them.
All right.
I know
All
Bristol
right.
Track is incredible, and a lot of those other platforms are great. But what it won't be allowing you to do is track everything you're interested in, which, especially for an international student, would be slightly different to a national student. Because what I'd expect to see in a tracker for you, and depending on how happy you are with making something in Excel, being from Actuary, you'll find this no problem at all. But what I'd like to be looking at is there's going to be three tabs here. Tab one is just going to be every job you've applied for. And
Okay.
then we're tracking essentially everything from when you hand in your CV to when you get a final interview. And what
Okay.
that will allow us to do is it will give you a visual structure of in these months, I didn't pass my CV. In these months, I didn't pass the aptitude test. In these months, I didn't pass the final interview. In these months, I got a job. And we'll be able to see a pattern, right? Because where a lot of people struggle with tracking is they think tracking is just, oh, I applied to this job and then I applied to this job. No, what I need to see is where are the pitfalls in your application? You will know some of them instinctively, but there'll be other ones that you're not aware of at all. And so, what we need to do is we need to break down the application into 5 or 6 stages from CV to final interview that are worth tracking so that you know which stage you're getting to and then what we need to do to get you to the next stage.
Okay.
In that next tab, and this is one that national students don't have to do, we need essentially an international job boards list. And what this is it's your Bristol tracker, it's all of that. It's everywhere you go to find opportunities. Because what we will do is you will be working on this, but we will also be working on it with you now as we do these sessions to find new opportunities and places that are worth going to. I wouldn't have more than 5 to 10 of these because the more trackers you have, the more it's going to be a pain to manage them all. And also, to be honest, Bristol Tracker will have 90% of every other tracker's opportunities on it already. So if we
Yeah.
have 5 to 10 trackers, we'll basically cover everything. So
Yeah.
that's fine. And then the last thing I'd want us to look at, once we've got our jobs, we've got the International Jobs Board, is a list of companies that don't reject your CV.
Okay. Like how I passed through my CV stage.
Yes. And the
I
reason
have a question with that.
go for it.
Like, will I be sent aptitude test directly, or I have to pass CV stage to get the aptitude test? Because that will help me know if I'm like passing the CV stage.
It depends on the firm. There's two options here. So the reason we have the list of companies that don't reject your CV is that is the best metric that I can give you of companies that don't reject international students. The
Okay.
problem we can encounter is if they don't have a question of, do you require a visa at the CV stage, then it's very possible that they take CVs that then they later reject because they're from international students. But most companies won't do that because obviously they don't want to be looking through a CV for someone they can't actually hire. It just
Yeah, that's fine.
be a pain. So because of that, we can assume that if a company doesn't reject your CV, then even if we don't pass with them in our first rotation, they're a company that, unless they change their policy, we can go back to.
Okay.
I think that's the important thing to think about. When we say aptitude tests and stuff like that, obviously we've done internships and we've done some roles before, but when it comes to sitting aptitude tests and stuff like that, how much experience do we have there?
Mm, I wouldn't say a lot, but I wouldn't say none as well. So I've got like a little bit experience, I'd say.
Okay. And how do you find them?
I mean, they're okay. The most aptitude tests which I find very tricky are not the numerical ones, but the behavioristic ones where I have to like
Yeah,
select and position the thinking and what I
yeah.
would do in certain position.
Yep, they are playing situational judgment tests. Yep.
Yep.
So I was the opposite to you. My maths was all right, but not good enough for the time limit that is on those tests. A lot of the rejections I got when I was applying for graduate schemes was literally because my maths was not good enough for those time limits, which was very sad. But a lot of my friends got stuck at situational judgment tests. We can definitely go over that in a session. I think there's some useful strategies for it, but to be honest, part of it is you do enough and then you just kind of learn to speak corporate language. Like literally, I don't know how to describe it other than that. You just basically you develop a sense of this is what they want me to answer. But as far as advice for this goes, you want to be thinking about the company's values first of all, and
Yeah.
then you want to be thinking about how the company would react to each choice. And then lastly, you want to be thinking about like individual perspective. Like,
Yeah, makes sense.
yeah, they aren't they aren't very difficult, but they do take a few tries to really understand what they're asking. And the problem is with aptitude tests is there's not many spaces where you get to try them. Can you just
Yeah, true.
actually let me check because I might not want to have that in the video. Do, 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 do. Yeah, I imagine your university has some type of opportunity to practice aptitude tests, right?
I don't think I've come across that yet.
Okay, interesting. I will have a look for you because what tends to happen with these universities is they have lots of resources that students never actually hear about because the university website is so big and like overly crowded. But when I went to Nottingham, we definitely had one, so I'd be surprised if you guys don't. But I can check that out for you. It might be useful to do. Cool. That's not a problem. So that's the main things I'd be looking at right now. Project experience is the last thing we'll cover. We've kind of spoken a little bit about it with metrics. When we're talking about project experience, what's more important to you, the academic side of it, or are we talking more about like down here, we've got like our job simulations? When we're talking about projects, is it to do with our job simulations or is it to do more with like the way we focus on the academic group work and stuff like that?
I think for me it would be academic ones because the projects I've done at university, they like very related to my job because I've
Yeah,
given presentations on, say, insurances, I've dealt with numbers, I've dealt with literally everything what I need to know for being an actuary. So I
yeah.
think that would have more weightage on my CV. That should do.
Yeah, it definitely does. Depending on what it is, I'd either throw it in the education section or even the professional experience section. Because one big thing that you do have an issue with right now is for third year, this is probably a middling amount of professional experience. Two options here. Uh, Depends how snooty the finance firms you want to work at are. I potentially throw the job simulations into your professional experience. Now, there's going to be lots of discussion about if this is a good idea or not. It is because your internship is an equivalent level of achievement to these job simulations in terms of what you get out of them. I think, are these with forage? Hello?
Yeah, yeah, I'm there.
Are these HSBC and JP Morgan job simulations? Were they with forage?
Yeah, they all were for forage, and then I did the AIG underwriting one as well. So I've
Yeah.
done quite a few.
Yeah, they should be in professional experience. Forage is a very weird thing because of how publicly accessible it is. But I think you actually do pick up quite a lot of skills, and it does advertise itself as kind of a virtual experience platform. And so, because of that, I would leverage that marketing and I'd stick it right up here. your professional experience consists of the sales associate role, the marketing and finance intern role, and then whatever roles these were. So obviously underwriting, and then this will be finance, and this will be finance as well. Obviously, be more specific, but the point I'm making is right now I don't actually know what these were. And if you bring them up here, we give them 2 points each. We then have an idea of what you achieved and what you learned within those roles. And what we're starting to do is we're starting to build up a sense of you've gained more and more professional experience and you've gained more and more skills. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but then I requested so I've got my careers team at university as well, and they
Yeah.
said that with the 4 hour experiences, I should put them under certifications because I did have them in my professional experience. I don't know why they said that.
Okay. Interesting. Which do you prefer? End of the day, it's your CV. I would suggest they're too important to be certifications. The problem is certifications to me are not, unless they're super technical and like, software engineering, cybersec, they're not really looked at all that much. And so you're running into a problem of these job simulations actually teach you a fair bit, and right now you're not giving them any space at all. So I think potentially, to contradict your university career team, I would have them in professional experience. Now, I don't know how you were advertising them when they were in your professional experience. If you've got a former CV, that might actually be quite useful for me to look at after this session. So I've got a bit more context on that. But to me, if they are discussed and explored well, I would say they're definitely on par with everything else you've got here. And I would put them in professional experience. And then we're going to run into the problem that all good students get by the time they finish university. You're going to have too much experience for a one-page CV, which is a good position to
Okay.
be in because it means we're going to start moving stuff to our LinkedIn, and we will have a more structured and more focused CV, which is always a good thing to have. It will feel a bit weird removing experience, but having more professional experience and then also being able to essentially focus on the things that are most important while keeping everything else on the LinkedIn experience section will help your CV more than it will take away from it.
Okay.
There's a few things we can do there with it. The last thing I wanted to speak about was the academic projects. What I want to do for this is if you can just talk for like 2 minutes about each of them, I'm going to write some notes and then pull out what I would be writing about if I was including them in your CV. Does that sound good?
I have one more suggestion. How about I do some homework? I make something like, say, whole of my experience, every project in detail, and then we discuss further what should be on my CV, and then we alter some stuff, including the forest job simulations.
Yeah, more than happy to do that. Okay, what we'll do then is if we're happy with doing that, message me either on LinkedIn or email, and I would like to know how you describe these job simulations and how you would describe the projects you've done. And then we'll have everything that we want to put on a CV. And as you said, we'll swap and change things out. The major thing that I would suggest if we're going to rewrite this CV, obviously look through all these notes, but for formatting, I'd get rid of these bullet points. You can kind of see how much space they're taking up. And as we're getting to the end of the CV already, I think it's space that we can't afford to lose. And I know it's like, I don't know, maybe 2 words worth of white space, but it's 2 words worth of white space every single point, and then here as well. And I think potentially that's 2 to 3 lines that you'll free up for yourself, which can then go into another experience on top of this that's better than having these bullet points here. We're
But
still
then
going
how are we
to
gonna like just differentiate between? I don't understand.
100% fair. We're just going to use a smaller separator. That like the
Okay.
separator is not a problem, but this bullet point is taking up a very large amount of space considering where the CV currently is. And I think potentially I can share you the format we currently recommend for students, but it's almost entirely the same as this. You just, these bullet points are taking way too much space away from you, which is a
Okay.
shame. because there is other stuff we could put there instead. But yeah, you're
That's
right.
fine.
There will be some sense of a separation. It just won't be that that grandiose. Awesome. Okay, I'm happy with that. If those academic projects and forage stuff are done in your free time, either we can look at getting another session in next week, or what you can do is you can just message me when you think all that stuff will be ready. Don't want to rush you on any of it, but I just wanted to get an idea of if you thought today's session was valuable and helpful for you, and if it's something you want to move forward with, either every weekend or every few weekends when you need support.
Yeah,
Okay, awesome, fantastic. Well, it was very nice to meet you, and I'll catch up with you about when we'll talk again.
it was lovely speaking to you, Liam. I really appreciate.
No worries. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.